I would say much less. I'm pretty much an authentic human being,
Yeah,
as I would say 98%. There are things about me that you would consider inauthentic because I understand what it takes to pass in a white world.
yeah,
You know, there are just things that you don't do, like drive really aggressively at night or anytime, really. I mean, like, it's a lot of fun driving. Police seem to love the driving
yeah.
aspect of existing as black people. Like, there's rules in this world, but every person that's of color that hears me say this knows that there's black rules for this world.
Yeah.
We teach it so that people don't die. It's not even that so people won't get hurt now. It's so that we won't die.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of J1Q. For all my J1Qers out there, thank you all for tuning in once again. I tell you, it's because of you guys that I keep coming back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have anyone to talk to. But as my wife always tells me, I probably would like that a little too much. So, you know what we are about: education, inspiration, and bringing resources to you and trying to just get the underrepresented voices heard and brought out. So today episode we are going to be talking about a couple of different things and some things that I am absolutely excited about. The format has changed a little bit for this episode and I don't have a script. I don't have it. I absolutely am afraid and loving it because I'm about to challenge myself and I challenge each and every one of you out there that's listening to really pay attention to this because a guest is someone I think will bring an enlightening difference to your world as well. So without any further ado, let's get this intro going and get ready to have some fun.
Welcome to Just One Question with your host, Lion Flood. This podcast is brought to you by The Minority Report, where our goal is to inspire, educate, and empower you with cultural knowledge. We'll also have conversations dealing with social justice, mental health, and the all-around truth. So if you're bold enough to hear the truth, then you're listening to the right podcast. Let's find out what that one question is with your host, Lion Flood.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're going to be bringing up our guest here, Ethan. Ethan is a gentleman who I think will inspire you because when I first was introduced and we spoke and found out about bringing them on to the platform, I was just like, okay, this is someone I've got to sit down and just have a conversation with, right? Not about what I want to find out and what can benefit in reference to get you to get something, but just in reference to inspiring you, in reference to making you feel like, hey, this is what you can do. So without any further ado, let's bring up Ethan on to the stage. So give him a big round of applause. Ethan, sir, how's it going?
It's going good, really
I
good. How are you?
love it. I love it. So before we get started into all of the things that we want to talk about, and I know one of the things we are going to reference is mental health. How about you take a moment just to let the listeners know a little bit about who you are and kind of what you're about?
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, everybody? Thank you for having me. My name is Ethan Nicholas. I am a public speaker, personal trainer, mental health advocate, soon to be author. Well, author. I wrote the book. Now it's just got to come out. I do a lot of work in the mental health and general health realm. I share my story of childhood trauma and use it to help change lives and affect change here in mental health and how we view it and how we treat it. And, just try to leave my mark on the world as a good one when my time's up. That's, the Cliff Notes version of what I do in this world.
There you go, right? Leave a legacy. I remember my granddad used to always tell me, hey, your name is, what is your history, and there's not too many things you can leave behind. But that's one of them. And so I will start with myself. As most of my listeners already know, I'm very transparent with my struggles, of things I've went through. I don't try to hide it. I have the good days, the bad days, and everything. And mental health is something that I am a strong proponent of, especially being a retired military veteran. I've seen things, and it's one of the things we take for granted when we have the ability to even just walk around our city without worrying if we're about to have a strike or someone's coming to attack on a daily basis. But those things can really leave an everlasting effect on you, on PTSD. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate you, one, for coming here to stand up and kind of just opening up. And like you said, you wrote a book about it, because I think there's too much stigma, bad representation of people not feeling their ability to go and get help, right?
Mhm.
If you go and look for a therapist, if you go and look for someone to talk to, then you're crazy, or you're shunned in your neighborhood, in your community, and so forth. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the topics we wanted to talk about. So start off by telling us your feeling of coming up in childhood, being a mulatto person, someone who felt two different worlds in your community. Where do you start with that?
Honestly, I had a different experience in life, from the start. You'll learn about me that I'm a childhood abuse survivor over a decade, and that's, twisted enough. But to look back on my life now with the knowledge that I have about, the Black experience and what I've lived through, seeing, firsthand just how whiteness affected my life from the get go. Like the person who's supposed to be my father, I won't give him the title. We'll call him Lenny. Uh, is Jamaican, straight off the boat Jamaican. Mom went down on a mission trip. That's how they met. My mom is full white. Obviously, you get this color. And I didn't know it at the time, but there was always this phrase in my house, especially when I got later into my teens and started, trying to fit in, and wearing toques like this wouldn't have been allowed. Off to one
Mm,
side, wearing a straight brim cap would have been. I could had to be out front, had to be bent. I wasn't allowed to wear my pants below my ass. Like all of my friends were doing. All of this, the style from hip hop at the time in the '90s and the early 2000s, just trying to fit in. And there was this phrase, and I know you're going to edit this at some point. Um, Lenny used to say, "I'm raising a black man, not a nigger."
yeah.
And I never understood the phrase. I didn't quite get it because my friends aren't that. So then what are they? And it was so confusing. I didn't understand the concept, but I look back now and see how fear of his own, experience in this world, the way he has to go through life, changed how he tried to raise me. And I was raised to hate black people. I
Mm,
was raised to want to be white, like lean into I know the words to way too many country songs. And both white and black people let me know that. Apparently, it's wrong to know country songs as a black person, except for if you really look at where country music comes from. I mean, we own, as black people, most genres of music. If you didn't know that,
mm,
that's something you now know. Go ahead and look it
mm.
up and you got to scroll past the first three that are all white pages only, and then get to the real history of music, and you'll find that we
Yeah.
own a lot of that. Sorry, I can talk really fast, and I talk a lot with my hands.
No worries.
But my experience growing up as a mixed kid was horrible. I didn't fit in anywhere. We talk about racism as, white people, especially from a place of power. That's what racism is. It comes from a place of power. So white people, I got it. Like that made sense. They hated me because I was black, but I didn't get why black people that were darker than me never liked me. It's like I
Mm,
couldn't earn my blackness, even though people choose to say the N word to me the same amount of times as they say it to everybody else. In fact, I've lost lots of blood in my life fighting for my life because of that word. So I didn't get treated any different by the world, and the place where I actually shared in their suffering didn't want me either. And I never knew where to fit. I particularly spent time with my mom, who didn't abuse me more than anybody. So I'm going to pick up traits from my mom. That's a normal child thing, but it always cost me because what I learned was white. You know,
right.
that definition of we talked about this in our meeting of you don't talk black. Like, what's
Hmm.
talking black? You expect me to cuss more? Trust me, I can do it. I'm really good at it. I love cussing. Cussing makes me feel good. It's very cathartic. But I don't talk like this, very soft and eloquently, and I can use big words that are 18 syllables long and make people feel really stupid as I look down my nose at them, because that's what people think they want us to talk like, white, more in their lane. But I never fit in anyone's lane because black and white never wanted me. I didn't fit. And I had to go through life figuring it out on my own.
Yeah, first I'll start off by saying this. Uh, all my listeners know and everyone knows I love authenticity. So whatever we do, it's not getting edited out. It is who it is. And if people choose not to listen, then that is their choice. I let everyone know at the very beginning. That's just how I really become. And I feel when you're speaking there because I, there's so much history that goes back into how even to the point of where we as black people were made back into probably even slavery time frames, and it just progressed to hate each other at a certain point, and that's kept going. Right, you had someone who would probably hate the black people who were the house niggers, they would say,
Hmm.
versus out in the field, and that was a strategic thing that was truly made so that they would fight each other or tell if one's trying to escape or something like that. So it definitely was, and I kind of feel a lot of that as well because when I was growing up, I had the similar hatred, even though my skin tone was very similar to everyone I was growing up with, but I was hated on because I was not the pants sagging out in the streets selling drugs. I was a smart kid. I straight A's and but I was still trying to fit in. And it took me a lot of years to understand that I didn't fit in from their viewpoint. And so I started, kind of like you said, not wanting to be around black people because I felt more accepted by some other cultures for whatever reason. And it is a scary thing, kind of when you were talking about how they were trying to tell you they didn't want to raise you as a black man or raise you as a black man, not a nigger. And without it even knowing subconsciously, we still do similar things like that in life. Because I remember my fear of coming up, and my parents would tell me, don't put your hands in your pockets when we're in the store or something. And every once in a while, I catch myself doing that to my son, just because it is still that fear factor of like, I know they're going to look at you and think you're stealing something more, right? And even without knowing, I think we're transferring some of our PTSD or some of our fears onto our children,
Hmm.
which could then be generational. It could then, they're going to teach their kids and so forth. And it's like, we want to break it, but we also want to be careful because we know violence out there and people, like you say, you shed blood and it's so weird. And it's perplexing to me sometimes of why we don't see it until we get older, but I also understand it because we are only taught what we know, and then our
Hmm.
parents teach us what they know, and then we transfer it down. Someone needs to stop that chain and says, no, it's wrong. Let's back it up and reteach it, even down to something as small as how I grew up eating sweets, and I grew up that's all I ate. I came home, mom, I'm hungry. I need a snack. Go get a snack cake. And now I try to work to show my son when he asks me, "Hey, go get a fruit, get a banana, get something
Hmm.
different," versus than just shoving what I had. But it's natural for me. So, what?
Hmm.
Where do you think? Where's this leading towards? Right. So you fought all that fight. You show them that hey, I can adapt in whichever culture, whichever world I'm in. Now that you're in your adult life, do you feel like that's still present? Like, does it still hit you and affect you?
I would say much less. I'm pretty much an authentic human being,
Yeah,
as I would say 98%. There are things about me that you would consider inauthentic because I understand what it takes to pass in a white world.
yeah,
You know, there are just things that you don't do, like drive really aggressively at night or anytime, really. I mean, like, it's a lot of fun driving. Police seem to love the driving aspect of existing as black people. Like, there's rules in this world, but every person that's of color that hears me say this knows that there's black rules for this world.
yeah.
We teach it so that people don't die. It's not even that so people won't get hurt now. It's so that we won't die.
Mm,
It's kind of a fucked up thing, right? Like the concept in itself means the responsibility's always on us. And it's hard when you know what you want to do, what you like, how you feel. And someone, that activist, said it really great a couple of years ago. Like, they are thankful that all we want is like equality. All we want is to, have our
Yes,
share
I heard
rather
that.
than being out for vengeance. It's like, no shit.
Yeah.
But the concept of, I know that I am who I am in this world. I am confidently black in this world. I've spent my entire life being white in this world. And now I choose, because I'm owed the experience of saying, yes, I'm a black man. And I've suffered as a black man in this world. I also now get to thrive as a black man in this world. Does it take extra? Yeah.
Hmm.
I won't lie to you, it's not been the easiest thing. But I'm here now, and the reason I'm sharing my story is because I'm showing people it's fucking possible. You can do this. I had an incident a year and change ago, a year and a half ago now, where I called for help and I still had the weapon pointed in my face. I
Hmm.
was immediately the threat as the only black person in the situation. Like, didn't even care. Like, by definition, my experience is the same.
Yeah.
I can literally prove to you on my body where it's been the same. Now
Crazy.
I get to show people that you can stand up and be confidently you, black, white, gay, all of the fun things, and exist and still thrive in this world.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. No one's gonna fucking lie to you. It's gonna be tough, but it's doable.
Right.
And it's
It.
doable playing by your rules. There are some things you'll have to adapt to, sure.
Yeah.
But I did this my way. I got to where I am today talking to you on this podcast because I stopped doing it everybody else's way, and I put Ethan's brand of fucked up on it and got to this spot, and nobody can take that from me.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of doing it this way. That's the beauty of doing what you've done and accomplished. It's Lion's thing. Nobody can take that from you. What you choose to do in this world is yours.
Yeah.
That's what makes us fucking great.
Drop it. It is one of those things where we see that, it's like you said, those different rules, and whether it's fair, whether it's what we think about it, it is. Even for when you go into finances, there's a rules for the rich, and there's rules for so it is what it is. It shouldn't be, but it is, right? And I agree wholeheartedly that we suffer so much because, like, that memory, I'm pretty sure I can think back to memories of something similar like that, and as soon as I do it, it evokes like almost a paralyzing effect sometimes, that I'm like, I shouldn't have to get into my vehicle and drive, and I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I don't go 5 miles over, right? Because
Yeah, I
the
can't even
rules
have
are
my wallet
different.
in my pocket.
Yes. A pointed example. I have, even right now in my vehicle, and I've told my sons this. I have a copy of an ID, registration, and all the paperwork and so forth up in my visor, so that if I get stopped, I pull it down, and everything is in like a little plastic container that holds it in there. So I can just hand one piece of thing to the officer or whatever, and I don't have a record. I don't get, but I'm still afraid, right? I know I'm not going to do anything, but
Because we've
there's still that
seen it.
fear.
You
Yeah,
like, no matter
it's
what
constant.
anybody says, no matter what anybody says, all of us have seen us murdered for less.
Yeah,
Like the concept to me is fucked up that we still have to explain this thing when it's like we've all seen the video evidence that even if we do what we're told, our lives are in danger.
yeah,
You The twist in being gaslit into thinking there isn't a legitimate fear in getting in my fucking car is mind numbing.
yeah. It
It's
even beyond
thumb
the
in the
car
face.
as well.
It's thumb in the face.
Yeah, I made, not recently, we've been here about 5 6 years now. So my wife and we moved into a very affluent neighborhood in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I have within 5 years, especially more once we first moved, I got the cops called on me just out walking my dog maybe 3 to 4 times. Right, I've had the cops come to my home and ask me when I was out working in my garage, "Are you supposed to be here? Can we see, that your address is on your ID or something?" Right, and that is a fear, and this goes into mental health. So if anyone's out there listening, saying, "What does this have to do with mental health?" That's what it has to do with it as well, because that weighs on you. Imagine being a 14-year-old kid dealing with this, just walking and getting stopped over and over again, or even being in a neighborhood that's desolate and you see all of the crime over and over again. Your mind is like, "That's what I'm supposed to do."
I didn't know until I was 29. I'm 32 now, that traffic stops weren't supposed to be 90 minutes long.
Ugh.
I had no fucking clue. I had to read about it. Another black person, a black woman, was sharing her experience with her newlywed husband, asking where she was, saying she was at a track. She got pulled over. He's like, "Why were you there for so long?" And it was then that he was like, that they were like, "Yeah, it's 20 minutes. They give you your ticket and you go." I didn't know that. I've
Mm.
never had that experience in my lifetime. Not that I get pulled over a lot, but I'm hello.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, like it's wild when people say you just live in fear. I mean, well, I don't live in it. I also have seen somebody comply and be gunned down in front of his family
Mm.
out of, get this, hear me when I say this, fear for their life. So a police officer with a weapon who is clearly not fucking trained to deal with a fear response has a fear response, and my existence no longer matters because I have this fear response.
Yeah. Yeah. It's deep. It's
Miss
one of those
me
things.
with that sideways shit.
Yeah, where people will say when they watch the video and you'll hear, and I've learned a while back, this is like certain topics you're not going to change anyone's mind. So once I see someone is not even open to hearing, I take myself out of that conversation, right? Because you'll have people say, "Well, why didn't you just listen?" Well, you still listen and things still happen. Or if you see someone getting beat on the ground or something, well, they're moving their hands. That's a natural human reaction. If you're getting hit in the head, you're going to cover up. If you're getting hit somewhere, your natural reaction to
You've
move
seen
your
people in
hands,
handcuffs.
yeah, to do it. I recently did matter of fact, did I delete it? I think I did. I recently did a video um, in reference to some of those things, and I'm gonna find it in just a second, and I'm gonna put it up on this episode. So for all of our listeners out there, we also are doing this through videos, so people are visually seeing this as well. And I'll link to those to that episode so you can be able to watch it. And so I want to transfer out of kind of like the mental health. And so now, what are some ways that you know all of those things have affected us in every different way, and we can't tell someone. It's like when someone loses someone in their life, right? You tell someone you only got an X amount of time to grieve. No, everyone grieves and handle things in their own way. So what are some ways that you have worked towards maybe changing some of those things for your life, or maybe helping you so that it didn't affect you to take you down a wrong path? Because there's someone out there who this is happening to yesterday, last week, and maybe
Mhm.
something that we say today can make them say, instead of saying, "You know what, I'm about to go rob the store," "Hey, let me go try to find a resource." What are some ways that have kind of helped you through that?
Uh, you know, I'm still relatively new at this healing thing. I'm relatively new at finding my voice and doing the work that I do. A resource, for me, I had a kid. I was going to be a dad, and I didn't know how to be one. And I mean, there's no book on how to be a parent. But when you come from trauma the way I have, there's really no book on it. And I was just at a point where I needed to figure out how to exist in a world, even as a survivor, and be a good dad. And so my resource was therapy. Uh, my church got involved, and they wound up helping me find a therapist, and they paid for a handful of sessions to get me started. And it took this guy 6 months of me just not caring to really get through to me. And my most powerful resource was I wanted to be better. It finally clicked with me that I was tired of being the way that I was. And it sucks existing so alone in a world just because you're in your own way. So for me, it really was I needed to be better and I wanted to be better. And so I took a chance on therapy. And in therapy, I found this calling, this thing that I get to do,
Mm.
speaking and sharing my story. And it was never that I wanted to do this. I fell into it.
Right.
But as I healed through therapy, other resources became, present to me, like learning how to breathe properly. And it sounds goofy, but if you're listening to this right now, I want you to check where your shoulders are in relation to your ears and see if you can relax them down away from your ears. If they moved, you just kind of proved my point. You're holding so much tension in your body right now,
Whoa.
you don't even notice it. And take a second. I'm gonna walk you through something really. This is a great tool for a second. Wherever you're listening, just sit up. I want you to relax the shoulders, pull them down, let them chill. Even though I'm talking, you aren't. So I want you to relax your soft palate. It means let your tongue fall to the bottom of your mouth. Feel how it relaxes the jaw. I just want you to take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. You can feel that stretch in the lungs and exhale slowly through the mouth till you're completely empty. Again, hold it there. Feel that cavern in there, that empty sac. Take another deep breath. Now, as you exhale, try to pull your shoulders down and relax even more. Relax your butt into the seat, relax your feet into the ground, and just sit in the quiet for a second. If you close your eyes, you can open them now. How do you feel? That's how easy. That's a tool I never even realized. I used to sit
Right.
like this constantly and never even clocked that I was doing it. And
Wow.
we carry tension so deep in our bodies from everyday stresses. Life happens, we get it, but we just never take that second to just give honor to the fact that we are stressed. So
Yeah.
give your body a moment to just fill space and then let it out and
Right.
take up space. That sitting up to breathe is really taking up space in your own body in a healthy way. And then as you exhale, now you find that you have more of it. Right, your shoulders feel better. You might feel a little bit better in here. You're not so heavy and scrunched up. You're a little bit loose, and that's a tool and that's a concept that I didn't learn until 3 years into healing, into
Wow.
therapy.
I did not even know that until just now. And I started doing it. And for a second, I was like, oh man, I'm on the show here. Let me get back. Because I started letting the shoulders go down. But it is absolutely true because first thing I like to say to anyone who's listening to us, right? It's okay to not be okay. We hold so much in, especially as black men.
Hmm.
We're one of the few things that I remember heard Chris Rock talking about this, and he said we're one of the few things in the world on earth that's loved with not conditionally, or like dogs are loved unconditionally, your spouse is loved
Hmm.
unconditionally, but as a man, if you're not accomplishing X, then you're not Y, right? So
Hmm.
it's like your job is to do all that. And I really appreciate that. My wife and I, we take self-care days. We will take a day and say, nope, I don't care who comes to the door. I don't care who does whatever. This is our hour. We'll put on some soft meditation music. We'll just sit back, no TV, and we really just learn to come back to, we call it going back to zero. We come
Hmm.
back to where we're at. And this made me think of something a second ago when you were just talking about some stuff, right? I looked at, and anyone's listening to this, go look this up for yourself. There's a video, I think this was back in the 70s, and where they would take young children in a room, black kids and then white kids and so forth, and a couple other cultures, and they would ask them, they would give them dolls,
The good
and they
doll,
would
bad doll
say,
experiment is what it's
yes,
called.
right. And I'm like, say it again so people can hear it.
The good doll, bad doll.
Good doll, bad doll. If you have a moment, go look at this. It is so eye opening,
It's
right?
heartbreaking.
It is to see young kids who haven't even experienced anything in life that say, yeah, that doll is better. Well, why? Because it's white. Like, where is that mentally? And that's what I was taught in a sense, right? That I speak on this so much now, kind of like you were saying, because as a younger person, I was like, I don't want to get in trouble. But now, hey, I am who I am. If you don't like it, goodbye.
Come with
I
the
have
trouble. Come on
I
with it.
I have three F's. My wife tells me we joking. If you don't fit in my three F's, occasionally it's four. But if you don't fit in my three F's, I really don't care what is being said, right? If you aren't financing me, feeding me, or fucking me, then what you say does not matter. I want to show something really quick here to you because this goes into what we were just speaking on. And I actually did this Saturday. This just happened. So let me see if I can bring this up. And for the listeners, you will be able to see this on a video, but you still might be able to hear it, but you might want to see it. So let me see if I can bring this up and you'll be able to see it as well. Okay, perfect. There it is. So let me see. I just show you a little bit of this right here. Let's see.
Corey, Eric, Philando, Ahmad, Steven, Kenneth, Amadou, Jonathan, Christian, Terrace, Sean, killed him a day before his wedding. Jamar killed him while he was in handcuffs. Mike killed him while he had his hands up. Kamani, Ramali, Phillip, Alton, about 3 Kevins, about 2 Jordans. John, Laquan, Bathon, Stefan, Tony, Tamir, Elijah, Antoine, Isel, Terrell, Dontre, Akai, George. For him, set the country on fire. Timothy, Patrick, Paul, Tyree, Quintonio, Darius, Jeremy, William, Anthony, Dante, Oscar, Kendrick, Keith, David, Walter, women like Sandra, Betty, Brianna, India, Michelle, Tatiana, Tanisha, Rika, Natasha, Pamela, Janet, Megan, baby Ayana. All that we lost, your name live on. Wasn't killed by a cop, but I can't forget Trayvon. Can't forget Emmett, and all of those we lost to the beast. No justice, no peace.
Oh my goodness. I just got chills rewatching that. Like, so there for those what was that? Okay, let me get that one off. Technology, right? But for those who could see it and those who didn't, it was a video of me side by side referencing like all of the killings that's happened recently in a rhyme, and it took me like 30 takes to get that. But I also have another positive version about some black historians as well, and I'll bring that up in a second. But my whole point to this was, right, it's kind of like you said, those are the people who were doing what they're supposed to do, you know, laying in their own bed. And then another hard thing to swallow is there's no repercussions for the actions from the people who do it. And it's a scary thing, but the healing, what you said, it starts it all. I am a firm believer in finding therapy. It does not have to be the conventional way. It can be whatever institutional way that works for you and your family. I grew up in a household that I rarely heard the word "I love you," really, and I didn't realize it affected me until I doubted. To this day, it still does. I remember my sister one day telling me she loves me, and I would always say, "Okay, you know, yeah." And one day she just looked at me. She said, "Why don't you ever tell me that?" And it was like at a moment where it's like I had to be real and look myself in what I call a dirty mirror. And I go, like, yeah, why don't I? Right? And sometimes we have to rationalize with ourselves to help us through our own trauma and healing, right? Healing, and it's not a 2-week thing, 2-month thing. It's going to take you however long it takes you. And even when you think you're healed, you're probably not. There's still some more things to do. And like you, the kids, man, like I truly believe this, right? I hear a lot, especially in our Black culture, people saying, I want to give my kids everything that I never had. I agree with it, but I disagree wholeheartedly. I say I want to teach my kids everything that I was not taught. Because what I got and what I went through, the trials and tribulations, it made me who I am today. It made me strong. Yes, I want to make sure you don't go through as much as I went through, but hey, you're going to learn it. You're going to always listen to our parents. But I want to teach you about investing. I want to teach you about growth and how to, you know, place money here and expand generational wealth and grow things versus not just giving it to you, right? Teach a person to fish and they can feed themselves for life and stuff. So I appreciate you for coming on and opening up to this. And, you know, and I know something that we were talking about earlier in our first kind of call as well. You kind of do like side hustles. I don't want to call them side hustles, but businesses and et
Mhm.
cetera, and fitness and stuff. Talk to us a little bit about that. Has that guided you and helped you? Do you provide that for other people if they wanted to get in touch with you and, maybe just
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
let's talk
Honestly,
about it?
yeah. So I'm a personal trainer by trade. That's what I do for a living outside of speaking. Try to change the world. And it wasn't until when COVID hit in 2020 that I changed for myself. I was at kind of a crossroads in my life. Needed, I was 260 pounds then, give or take, and just was not finding any joy in what I was doing. And there were multiple reasons for that. And I handled the business I had to handle, and made the conscious decision that I was going to live for me for once, like really live, to take care of my health, to show myself the respect that I deserved from me that I've never given myself in my life. And so, over COVID, I lost, I think, a grand total of like 88 pounds. Went back to playing semi pro football, took my life over, but it wasn't necessarily about the physical. The physical was kind of the gateway, the way to do it. It was all about my mental journey. I started walking in the mornings and spending time learning in audiobooks and just being in quiet, and getting to actually practice things that I learned, like the breathing, living for how I wanted to live. And then I got this crazy idea in my mind that I wanted to know what I was great at. And I read David Goggins' book, and I don't agree with everything he says. Some of it is really toxic. Like, let's be real. But the concept behind we always have more. I wanted to know for myself what my more was, and so I used that concept in the gym, and I changed how I was training. And as it progressed, my clients started to see the change in me, and they wanted to know what it was all about. So I redid how I was doing business and started hosting my clients in for group sessions where we were basically competing with each other. It's a safe way to always leave my gym better. Yeah, I'm gonna go to war with my friend Stu that comes in and trains. We're gonna go hundreds of reps all day, and I'm gonna beat him because I'm a psycho and I always have more. I learned that early about myself. I know going in that I'm crazy enough to want to be the best in the room. That's for me. That's my goal. I want to know how great I am. But what it brought out was when Stuart would beat me and then I'd beat him, he would have to beat me. It didn't sit well with him to not be able to be doing something that I was doing. And so he would go and push himself. And so every time he's beating me, he's beating himself. And the concept was that no matter what, you continue to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than when you walked in my door. And that starts to stick with you. Our whole lives, we've been told that we can't do stuff. Other people have dictated how we walk through life. And it sticks with us in how we operate. In my gym, we find that you continue to build your own confidence in your own self, finding your own strength because you were able to dig that little bit further. It sticks with you outside the gym. People telling you can't do shit doesn't really register anymore because those lies from before aren't there. You've proven to yourself on a basic level that you are capable of more. And that sits there, and it's this intrinsic confidence. And that's how I run my business now. Everybody that shows up, I still have privates. People don't want to play with the crazy. That's cool. But I open my groups up to where everybody shows up. If you come through my door, I promise you'll get better. I'm in the
Yeah,
business of helping people get better. I believe without a doubt that everybody can do this.
yeah,
I have a 60-year-old client that does the full 90 minutes. When she started with me 6 months ago, she was only doing 20. It's literally doable for everybody. And all it breeds is, yes, physical bounds. I'm the greatest athlete I've been in my entire life now. But mentally, I am tougher than I've ever been or will be because I continue to prove that I am, in fact, capable of more.
yeah.
And it's such a beautiful place to be. And so that, Fight Me on This is Instagram for me. It's, I share a lot about speaking and training there. But you can also reach out to me there and ask me questions. I do online work. If you want to come join the crazy, if you're in Edmonton, Alberta here, please do. But it's a lot of fun, and it's much deeper than just physical. It's blending mind, body, spirit, so that you are prepared to exist in a world that's going to tell you that you can't.
Man, absolutely love it. And it resonates so much when you get to that point where you talk about the world tells you or people tell you can't do something, right? And eventually, if you hear it enough, you start to believe it. And the strong separates themselves. And I really love telling people of, there has to be more. And that's one reason why I kind of went the direction of just one question. Because sometimes we have to ask ourselves that question: what do I need to do to change? What do I need to do to get better, right? We got to start putting the blame on everyone else. Sure, things happen in life and, kind of derail us here and there, but we really got to focus on it. And I love that fact that so we like to give a shout out at this point in time to a fellow podcast that's called Connect with Candy. This podcast is all about women empowerment, inspiration, and guidance, helping women through tough times with reasonable resources and information. If you get a chance, do us a favor and go check out Connect with Candy. That's with a K, Konnect, with Candy, with a K, Kandi, streaming on all platforms: Apple Podcast, Google, iHeartRadio, and all of the podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Check out Connect with Candy. Back, and that was a word from our sponsors. Thank you all. Go check them out and make sure you get exactly what you need. We were talking about a couple of things there, but I also want to kind of share something with you all that recently really came into my life. My aunt, she wrote a book in reference to our family, and I love it. And I just got the copy in the mail like the other day. For the viewers who can see this, it's called The Story Worth Telling. And she goes back and she travels our DNA, where we came from, our lineage, everything. And I'm mind blown literally reading this book. It's a good little read. She's not selling it. It's only for family only, but it has pictures of our past, our history, all of the families. And she talks about the great things that have been done, where our family members are at, the schooling. Now, I'm just going to read one quick thing here, just for the ones who are listening and the viewers. You could be able to see this. I won't hold the book up. The family tree. It is our first page reference. So I don't know yet, because she didn't date it, but we go back to our great grandmother and father and so forth like that. My his name was Lonnie Mack. He was white and Irish from Ireland. I got white in me. So, and then my great grandmother, her name was Alice Mack, and she was black. She was from France. So my lineage, I'm finding out, is from Ireland and France. French. Neat. Yeah. So, whoa, mind blown, explosion just happened, right? And it's really a good kind of thing to look back, because I'm looking at family members. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know my cousin, graduated valedictorian from her college and all of that. Mm-hmm. That's really nice to hear. So it's very important for us to still, keep our lineage and our history and learning and finding whatever works for you. Like you were talking about your fitness and everything, right? Some people say that is their stress relief. Some people say that, it helps them mentally with just to go out and punch the bag a little bit, run or do whatever. And so we're going to be wrapping up in just a moment, and we're going to get some final things out there. And all of the pages and everything that Ethan told you to reach out to him at, they will be included into our show notes. And so all of our listeners and viewers can go there and click on the links and follow him. And I highly suggest that, right? Because as I've always stated to everyone, you know me, I do not believe in this crab in the bucket theory. I'm not pulling another person down. I am pushing you up, because if you get out and you knock the bucket over, we all escape, right? And if you leave and go, then hey, we're just there, right? But at least it's a better chance for us to get out. So 2 last things before we go. I want to play the second one, and hopefully this one is very short as well, but I may edit this one out. I don't know, but let me play the second one for everyone to be able to listen and be able to see as well. And again, I just posted this one recently as well, and I think we have it. So here it goes.
It was Martin, Malcolm, Hewitt, Alvin, Marcus, Richard, Jesse, Adam, Carlin, Gordon, James, Philip, Nat showed them not to play with us. Duke, Langston, Thurgood, Robert, Hank, Jesse, Jackie, Muhammad, Paul, Stokely, Mega, Webb. About 3 Benjamins, a good 2 Freds. Women like Harriet, Rosa, Ida, Shirley, Sojourner, Madam, Maya, Mary, Bessa, Ella, and Retta. Even baby Ruby was out here applying pressure. Gil, John, Booker, Sid, George, you nuts if you don't know who he is. Bayard, Charles, Roy, Carter, Cecil, just for drinking them white folks' water. All kings and queens, yes, for real. And to the ones that we lost, like Emmett Till, and all those is here, we gon' continue to hold it down. Say it loud, black, and I'm proud.
Wow. So yeah, I'm so motivated, and I'm extremely happy that we got to share this conversation. I'm looking forward to more. All of the listeners, reach out to Ethan, reach out to myself, drop an email if you enjoyed this. There's things in the future that you want to hear. This was very powerful. Just one little tap into mental health and how we kind of dealt with it, and we little ways that we've worked through it. And we can't solve everything, right? But we can try one little person at a time, reaching one person and working to change their world, and just making things just a little bit better for each other. What final words do you have for the listeners, for anyone out there that's you'd like to share with them? What final words would you like to depart on?
I love this question. It's always different. I never know what mood I'm going to be in when I get asked it. But I'll leave you with this, since we're talking about existing as Black in this world. Stop letting people dictate and tell you your experience. We get it twisted that we don't actually have a story because it's like so many others, except for it is a story that needs to be heard. It's your story. You've experienced it. You've lived it. You've suffered, struggled, survived. Maybe you're thriving now. Maybe you're still in the struggle. Maybe you're still in that middle ground of surviving. It's yours. Nobody can take it from you. So stop letting them.
There you go, folks. You heard it. I don't need to say anything else on that there. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing this, and I look forward to more of this in the future. Just hang on for me for 1 second. I'm going to pay a little bill with some of these sponsors, and then I'll be right back with you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of J1Q. Again, our podcast is just brought to you to bring inspiration and education and resources, learning and development. This episode has been really touching, and it's been different for me, and I really like it because I got to just be a little bit of myself, and I noticed that in reference to some of the things we spoke about, right? I have to be in 2 different worlds and 2 different parts, and I'm learning to embrace the love of the Blackness of who I am. And as most of you know, we're working towards rebranding some things and changing some of the focuses. And I've sent out a survey, and I'm extremely excited of hearing and seeing some of the responses we're getting. And right now, one of the names that's in the lead, and I'll tell people who might be tuning into this episode the first time, one of the name changes that we were thinking of, or additions, maybe not directly changing the name, but was called Culture Shock. And the actual other one was called Black Negus. And for those who don't know, Negus is the African Ethiopian word for king, royalty, right? And it says N-G-U-S. And that whole word of niggers and Negus, it's a long thing in it. And I'm learning more about it, and it's extremely exciting. So, but with that being said, I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's listening. And as always, like I always tell you, make sure you keep living while you are alive.
Thank you for listening to Just One Question. I know you enjoyed the show because you made it this far. If you want to hear more, subscribe, share, and don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Now, what's your one question?